It is an early morning, February 27, 1942. Amidst the waves charting their course towards Java to reinforce the Allied powers holding off the Japanese, the USS Edsall, Whipple, and the United States' first aircraft carrier ever built, USS Langley, sailed north. Just after 9 a.m., a lookout spotted enemy aircraft, prompting Langley to request fighter cover, which was unavailable. As the Japanese patrol plane disappeared in the distance, the ship's crew saw the sky turn dark as silhouettes of over a dozen Mitsubishi Zeros appeared on the horizon. The early months of 1942 saw the Allied forces stretched thin across vast territories. The Japanese adopted a piecemeal strategy to secure key positions in the Dutch East Indies and beyond. Singapore fell to the Japanese on February 15th, while Sumatra, Bali, and Timor also came under Japanese control. In January, ABDACOM, the American-British-Dutch-Australian Command, was activated under the command of Field Marshal Sir Archibald Wavell, with Admiral Hart leading the naval component. The campaign intensified with Japanese bombings in Manila, prompting the entire fleet's relocation southward. Submarines maintained patrols, but major naval activity ceased as the American Navy retreated. Japanese air power proved decisive in driving the Allies from Manila and jeopardizing Surabaya and Port Darwin. Despite efforts to counter Japanese air superiority, the Allies struggled with insufficient fighter aircraft. The logistical challenges of reinforcing Java with aircraft from Australia proved daunting, with many planes lost in transit. The Japanese advanced methodically, seizing key points in Borneo and Celebes. In Borneo, their overland advances posed a threat to Java and Sumatra. As the Japanese consolidated control over strategic locations, Allied efforts to halt their advances encountered logistical and tactical hurdles. A multinational fleet under Dutch Rear Admiral Doorman was formed in response. As the Japanese tightened their grip, the need for a unified Allied response grew apparent. In mid-February, heavy bombing of Bali signaled the next target for Japanese forces. Japanese forces landing on Bali's southeast coast on February 18th spurred a night raid planned by Admiral Doorman involving cruisers, destroyers, and torpedo boats. Despite losing a Dutch destroyer and later scuttling a US one, it did briefly halt the Japanese advance. The dissolution of the Allied Supreme Command followed, with General Wavell leaving Java on February 25th, marking the end of coordinated defense efforts. Dutch officers took over defense operations. All Allied officers were redirected to report to Vice Admiral Conrad Helfrich, who now became the chief of the Allied Naval Command in Java. Despite the dire situation in Java, there was a glimmer of hope that the island could be defended if enough fighter planes could be secured. On February 22nd, a convoy carrying 59 planes, including 32 assembled Curtiss P-40E Warhawks on the USS Langley and 27 P-40s on the Sea Witch, set sail from Fremantle, Australia to Ceylon. Helfrich sent orders to redirect the Langley and Sea Witch to Java. Though unknown why, Langley departed from the convoy much earlier than Sea Witch. The USS Langley was the first US Navy aircraft carrier. In 1920, it was converted from the USS Jupiter. It was 165 meters in length, a beam of around 20 meters, and a displacement of approximately 10,400 metric tons, cruising at a speed of about 15 knots. Led by Commander Kenneth Whiting, Langley's transformation showcased innovative feats like a turbo-electric power plant. Commissioned in 1922, Langley spearheaded naval aviation experimentation, contributing to dive bombing techniques and paving the way for future aircraft carriers. In the late 1930s, it underwent a transformation as newer aircraft carriers rendered her obsolete. Its dimensions became modest. In contrast, the USS Lexington, Ranger, Yorktown, and Enterprise, commissioned between 1927 and 1938, epitomized the evolution of carrier technology. Their imposing lengths ranged from around 234 to 271 meters, with beams expanding to 33 to 35 meters and displacement soaring to 18,000 to 30,000 metric tons. Remarkably, their speeds surged to approximately 29 to 33 knots. Converted into a seaplane tender at Mare Island Yard, Langley was refitted to accommodate consolidated PBY Catalina flying boats, accepting a supporting role. In early February 1942, USS Langley was tasked with a crucial mission, delivering much-needed fighter aircraft to Ceylon. Laden with 32 P-40Es and manned by inexperienced pilots, Langley set sail from Fremantle, Australia, accompanied by the freighter Sea Witch carrying additional planes. Helfrich's message to divert towards Java reached Langley as it departed Fremantle. The pressing need for fighters meant they embarked on the journey unescorted due to urgency. However, delays plagued the voyage. Confusion over escort arrangements and mechanical issues slowed progress. Approximately 200 kilometers away from Chilatjap, the Langley was joined by the US destroyers Edsall and Whipple. On the morning of February 27th, enemy aircraft were spotted. As Japanese patrol planes identified the convoy, the Japanese 11th Air Fleet prepared their attack. At 9 a.m., a lookout aboard the Edsall spotted a hostile aircraft. This patrol plane, part of the Japanese 11th Air Fleet, quickly relayed the convoy's information to the nearby Japanese aircraft carriers and shore bases. McConnell immediately radioed air bases on Java's southern coast, requesting aerial support. However, he was informed no aircraft could be spared on such short notice. At 11:40 a.m., the skies darkened as dozens of Mitsubishi Betty bombers approached. Aboard the Edsall, Whipple and Langley, troops took their positions at anti-aircraft guns, waiting for the order to open fire. A vanguard of 9 Bettys veered towards the American vessels, positioning themselves for a devastating assault from the rear. Before they unleashed their fury, a second formation of 7 bombers emerged, soaring at an altitude of 15,000 feet, beyond the effective reach of Langley's defensive guns. Undeterred by the impossibility of retaliation, Commander McConnell issued the order to fire, the American shells futilely exploding below the enemy's aircraft. With eerie precision, the Japanese bombers descended upon their targets, treating their assault as little more than a routine exercise. At precisely 11:54 a.m., as the sun hung high overhead, the Japanese planes released their deadly payloads. Swift action was imperative. With nerves of steel, McConnell ordered a hard right rudder, a desperate maneuver aimed at dodging the impending catastrophe. The aged hull groaned under the strain as 2 explosions, hitting the water close by the ship, rocked the vessel. The impact was severe. Riveted seams strained against the force, water seeping into the engine room, threatening to cripple Langley's electric propulsion system. Amidst the chaos, the efforts of the damage control teams proved crucial. They fought against the relentless deluge as the first wave of attacks was over. Not a single bomb had hit the vessel. Undeterred by their initial failure, the flight leader of the 9 Bettys opted for a second approach. At 12:12 p.m., as the tension aboard Langley mounted, the Japanese bombers adjusted their tactics to counter McConnell's evasive maneuvers. The first bomb struck perilously close, landing a mere 4 feet from the starboard side on the main deck, where the ship's boats lay in wait. The force of the explosion ripped open a 10-foot chasm, severing communication lines and disrupting steering control. Meanwhile, the second bomb pierced the port side of the elevator, situated on the forward part of the battered flight deck. A third bomb followed suit, striking dangerously close to the port airplane elevator, igniting a blaze that engulfed multiple P-40 aircraft. As flames licked at the deck, a 4th bomb landed further aft on the port side, decimating planes and wreaking havoc among the sailors stationed topside. Japanese fighters added to the carnage, strafing Langley's exposed decks. Amidst the inferno, McConnell and his crew fought back, continuously firing the machine guns. The second wave of attacks was over. It was not looking good as fuel reserves dwindled and many aircraft were damaged. Sailors were killed and the ship listed heavily to port. In a desperate bid to salvage what remained, damaged P-40s were cast overboard and counter-flooding measures were implemented. Due to the water damage, Langley's electric motors faltered. Faced with the grim prospects and unwillingness to jeopardize the safety of escorting destroyers, McConnell made the agonizing decision to abandon ship. The Whipple and Edsall extended a lifeline, rescuing as many sailors as they could. And so, amidst the smoke and flames, the once proud Langley succumbed to the ocean. To prevent the Japanese from seizing the listing Langley, Whittle fired several 4-inch shells and Edsall launched torpedoes, scuttling the vessel. In total, only 16 sailors aboard the Langley died. However, losing their first aircraft carrier was a serious hit to US morale. Langley's grave is located roughly 120 kilometers south of Tjilatjap. Learning of Langley's sinking, the tanker USS Pecos en route to Ceylon altered course to assist in the rescue operation. Ultimately, the survivors were transferred to Pecos from the destroyers for further assistance. En route to Fremantle, the Pecos arrived at Christmas Island to transfer survivors from the Langley. However, Japanese dive bombers initiated a relentless 3-hour attack. The sustained assault caused significant damage, resulting in fires, a severe list, and structural damage. The Pecos sank at 15:48, with survivors fleeing to lifeboats and rafts amid strafing from Japanese planes. The distress signal was picked up by the destroyer Whipple, which swiftly arrived at the scene, rescuing 220 survivors from the water amidst concerns of submarine activity. Carrying a total of over 670 crew members, this only saw 220 survivors. The Sea Witch did manage to reach Tjilatjap undetected. She delivered her Warhawk aircraft before returning to Australia undetected. However, the Japanese rapidly advanced. During the night of February 27th, a Japanese fleet destroyed an Allied fleet under the command of Dutch Rear Admiral Karel Doorman. In a twist of irony, the US Army on Java decided to destroy all delivered aircraft to prevent capture, as they abandoned Java altogether. By March 8th, Tjilatjap was overrun by the Japanese, marking the capture of Java entirely. Japan now dominated the Pacific, as the bloody war had only just begun. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please leave a like, it really helps out the channel. If there is a topic, battle, or person you would like to know more about, let me know your thoughts in a comment. I would also like to thank all my patrons and channel members for their generous support. If you enjoy House of History and you want to support my work, consider joining me on Patreon. For just $1 per month, you will already gain early access to all my videos without any in-video advertisements. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.